The ocean looked calm from the surface, but every sailor knew that the sea could hide its mood until the very last moment. On the day of the grand launch of the new luxury cruise ship Aurelia Star, thousands gathered at the port to witness history. It was marketed as one of the largest and most advanced vessels ever built, capable of carrying nearly 10,000 passengers, equipped with stabilizers, wave control systems, and even an emergency power dome said to withstand any storm. Cameras flashed, families waved flags, and the entire harbor buzzed with excitement. No one imagined that within hours, fear would replace every smiling face. Captain Rowan Hale stood on the bridge, double-checking every safety parameter. He had sailed for 30 years and trusted experience over flashy technology. His instincts whispered a quiet warning as he looked toward the horizon. The sky was too still, the wind too warm, and the air carried a strange humidity. Weather reports claimed everything was normal, so he pushed the thought away, but not completely. As the ship's engines roared to life, the vessel began its slow, majestic move away from the pier. Passengers cheered, recording the moment, unaware that deep below them, a powerful undercurrent had begun forming miles out at sea. Something had shifted in the ocean floor. Scientists would later call it a rare horizontal surge, but at that moment, no one knew anything. Minutes after leaving the berth, the ship drifted slightly off its programmed course. The navigation team noticed the deviation and attempted minor corrections, but the Aurelia Star resisted like a stubborn creature. Captain Hale frowned and ordered a deeper scan. Before the crew could finish, the ship trembled, not violently, but enough to silence the chatter around the decks. Passengers exchanged confused looks. Some laughed it off as normal engine vibration, but on the bridge, the instruments began flashing inconsistent. Depth sensors flickered, current indicators rotated wildly, and the digital maps glitched with unreadable data. The helmsman attempted full manual control, yet the ship continued sliding sideways, pulled by a force invisible to the human eye. In the distance, the water began to darken, a long sweeping ribbon of rough current cutting across the ocean like a moving shadow. It was heading straight toward them. Captain Hale steadied himself, voice firm but tight. Everyone brace and hold positions. Something's wrong. Within seconds, the massive cruise ship was caught by the current. The moment the current hit, the Aurelia Star lurched with a frightening drop, as if the sea had suddenly tilted beneath it. Passengers screamed as drinks spilled, children grabbed railings, and luggage rolled across floors. The ship didn't capsize, but it was being dragged sideways with terrifying momentum. Alarms erupted throughout the decks. The once festive evening transformed into a chaotic storm of confusion. Captain Hale shouted for emergency stabilizers, and the engineering team activated the system, but the ocean's force was overwhelming. The current wasn't just strong, it was calculated, swirling beneath the ship like a giant underwater river. The stabilizers slowed the ship's rotation but couldn't free it. The vessel drifted off the main route, and into uncharted water, far from where rescue teams could easily reach. Inside the passenger halls, chaos escalated. Maya, a young travel vlogger who came aboard for her first cruise, found herself shoved against a wall as the ship listed sharply. She instinctively grabbed an elderly woman's arm, pulling her to safety. A toddler started crying, his mother desperately holding him close while trying to stay balanced. The entire deck trembled under their feet, metal groaning like the ship itself was in pain. Lights flickered. A deep mechanical rumble rolled through the hull, followed by another violent jerk. Water slammed against the windows on level 4 so hard that passengers thought the glass might shatter. Security teams rushed through corridors, guiding people toward interior cabins where the rocking felt less severe. But the fear was everywhere. On the bridge, communication lines failed one by one. The satellite link flickered and died. Radar readings turned blank. The ship was effectively blind. Captain Hale clenched his jaw. "We need to steer out manually. Override the autopilot completely." The helmsman tried, but the controls vibrated as if resisting human touch. The force dragging them was monstrous. Meanwhile, in the engine room, Chief Engineer Malik discovered that the current was affecting water filtration intakes, causing pressure surges. "If this continues, we could lose one of the engines," he warned. They began redirecting flow and shutting down compromised systems. Above deck, the sky changed. Dark clouds gathered unnaturally fast, carried by the same current. The wind picked up, howling through every open space. The sea that once sparkled now churned like liquid steel, angry and unpredictable. Passengers prayed, crew members braced, and the Aurelia Star continued to be swept deeper into the unknown. Hours passed, though to everyone on board it felt like minutes stretched into eternity. The Aurelia Star had drifted nearly 20 miles off course. The current showed no sign of weakening. It behaved like a living thing, twisting the ship's direction every time the crew attempted a counter-maneuver. But despite the chaos, the crew refused to give up. Captain Tail ordered teams to manually anchor the ship's stabilizing fins. It was risky, but they needed to create resistance. Divers couldn't be deployed in the violent water, so the engineering team worked from inside the mechanical shafts. Melik barked instructions while his team fought through rising heat and shaking floors. They successfully forced partial stabilization, slowing the spin, but not the drift. On deck 7, panic turned into restless silence. People sat on the floors, gripping handrails or each other. Conversations were whispers. Children slept in their parents' arms from exhaustion. Nana moved through the crowd, offering water bottles and comforting anyone near her. She kept recording, not for content now, but as a message in case the world needed to hear what happened. The ship suddenly jolted again. This time, the force came from below, with such intensity that plates and glass shattered everywhere. A deep echoing roar seemed to climb from the ocean floor into the ship's belly. Alerts blared. Hull stress at critical levels in sectors 4 and 9. Melik froze. That meant the current was forcing the ship toward an underwater ridge or trench. Captain Hale's voice came through the intercom, steady but strained. All passengers remain calm. Move away from outer walls and windows. We are working to regain control. Outside, the storm clouds clashed overhead, lightning illuminating the monstrous wave. The current had drawn the storm toward them like a magnet. Rain began hammering the decks, and the ocean turned into a battlefield. Every wave that struck the ship sounded like a cannon blast. The crew's biggest fear became reality when the ship's starboard engine shut down unexpectedly. Smoke filled the engine room. Melik and his team rushed to contain a small fire, triggered by the pressure surge. Losing one engine meant losing half their steering power. And then, amid the chaos, radar briefly flickered back. Melik gasped. "Captain, something's ahead." A massive rock formation, sharp, rising, and unavoidable, was directly in the ship's path. The moment the rock formation appeared on the radar, Captain Hale knew they had only minutes, perhaps less, before impact. His voice thundered across the bridge. "Reverse thrust on remaining engines. Prepare for emergency evasive steering." The crew scrambled into position. All hands gripped controls that vibrated violently, resisting commands like a wild animal refusing restraint. Below deck, passengers felt the ship shift sharply. Screams filled the hallways as people braced themselves against walls. Water splashed onto lower decks from broken seals, though the hull remained intact. Maya held onto a railing with one arm and supported the elderly woman she had helped earlier with the other. "Don't look outside," she yelled as lightning illuminated the jagged silhouette of the rising rocks. The ship groaned, metal straining as the crew forced the vessel to tilt away from the deadly formation. The remaining engine roared at full reverse power, fighting both the current and the ship's immense weight. The ocean surged around them, furious at their attempt to escape. Melik radioed in. "Captain, the coolant levels are unstable. We can push the engine for 30 seconds, no more." 30 seconds is enough, the captain replied, though everyone knew he wasn't certain. The rocks loomed so close now that waves crashed against them, spraying white foam over the deck. Passengers closed their eyes, gripping each other, praying silently. On the bridge, the crew's teeth clenched as they pushed the ship steering to its mechanical limits. 20 seconds passed. The ship began to pivot slowly, painfully, but enough to shift its path by a few crucial meters. 10 seconds left. The ocean's current made a final violent pull, as if trying to slam the ship into the rocks. The vessel shuddered, the floor tilting dangerous. Melik shouted over the intercom. "Captain, we're losing temperature control. 5 seconds." The ship screeched as metal brushed against stone. Not a full collision, but a harsh warning. Sparks flew along the hull where it scraped the edge of the formation. The impact sent passengers tumbling, but the vessel remained afloat. And finally, like a miracle, the current weakened just enough for the engine to pull them free. The Aurelia Star drifted away from the rocks, battered but alive. Silence fell across the ship. People cried, hugged, and thanked the crew. The storm began to fade, and the sea slowly calmed, as if acknowledging their survival. Captain Hale exhaled for the first time in hours. "We're not safe yet," he murmured, "but we're going home." And for everyone aboard, surviving the sea that night became the story they would tell for the rest of their lives.